Coming on back with Daily 579. Hello. Part 2 is good. We're in kind of a funky position as our hero lovers. Who doesn't love a hero? I don't. I didn't like high school, so I don't like any heroes. I root for the bad guy. Well, to be honest, who did like high school? Who did? So, alright. We got Dr. Hero up against the hyper-modern style of Annoyance. Some of the logic of this is that it's really hard to get these High Templar up to feed back any Vipers due to the fact that the Locusts are always in the way. However, big pushes in these sorts of positions are actually quite strong, all built upon this Void Ray recharge. Storming up on Corruptors is good. But I'm not particularly convinced about the Void Ray and Lake King still. Still have me doubts. Void Rays cost kind of bulky free supply, they're slow, they mean that you're fixed, and as we go to Demons Lost tab, we're seeing it slowly tipping more and more in favor of the Zerg. And of course Zerg has like a boatload of bank, and can just replenish a ton of dudes. Pretty low on the larva count, actually. Oh, he's making more Corruptors. Hee-her. I would say the Corruptor is like one of the best anti-airs in the game. Corruptors are so good when they get to huge numbers, and in these positions they inevitably will. I don't think there's any sort of equivalently ground-to-ground awesome dude in the way that the Corruptor is awesome. So I think the Zerg is playing this out perfectly. And compositionally we're seeing the struggle with the Void Rays. They're not quite fast enough to hit in a lot of places, they don't quite do enough damage to allow us to pick things off the way we want, and just a single yoink at a time. Oh, we lost a whole bunch of life on these Corruptors, no big deal, just continue to pull back. Spine, Spore, Transfuse, more, Tempest, bing. So these are funky times. Weirdly, I am of the opinion that very fast forces are the best way to deal with this Zerg mix, because I don't think there's any way for Protoss to really engage this profitably. On a map like Whirlwind, I think you can clearly see a huge map like that would make this really tough. You just can't do it. The distances is too big. But even on a map like this, a very fast force, Colossus Stalker, Zealot Archon, just sort of like if this force were here, like this, all these photon cannons, and these Templar were here, Locusts are going to have a pretty considerably difficult time killing this off. And if we go down this way with a huge force, we just this expansion gets gutted. We do a warp in up here, do some more gutting of things as we retreat back out. This base is under no imminent threat because it's Swarm Host Corruptor. Actually, this is an interesting idea that just popped into my head. If you get into this position as hero, where you've almost forced your opponent to build all these Corruptors, beginning a series of rapid attacks, like just going here and killing this off with the Void Ray army, and as it starts to die, replenish with just Zealots. Replenish with Zealot Colossus. Some Stalkers in there. It would be pretty difficult for a Zerg like this to reposition himself. So, you know, Zerg upon like finding this base is like, well, I guess I'll siege this. Hey, look at this! Look at this! Yeah, we're combating an immobile strong army with a mobile weaker army. Preemptive prismatic alignment. Zerg shows up right the instant that the prismatic alignment withers and dies. And we see what a huge Corruptor force is really all about. This stinks. But I also think is irrelevant. 5 Void Rays coming out. Yeah, so, I mean, this is... When I watched this game, I was like, oh, hero, you sly bastard. You are doing the greatest, slickest, sickest moves But this transition to Void Ray, I think, is sort of over-heralded as like the next big it thing for them Protossers. Yep, Ben Void Ray is real good. Not a fan of it. Losing a base. Trading it for this base. Against this many corruptors, not even ground units are safe. They'll be so corrupted, they'll just die themselves. Because the prismatic alignment is so easy for a Zerg to deal with a fast air army. You just back up. And Void Rays can't chase. And there's just too many threats on the ground. So you're just screwed. Now Colossus, a Stalker, a Zealot, an Archon, a Templar on the other hand. They don't need to charge up at all. And we see more destruction by the Zerg. My commentary's basically done. There's nothing more to say, but I'll review the point where Hero got screwed. He's getting the storms off. He's starting to fall behind, but that's okay, because soon enough he'll take his time. Getting more corruptors, 10 on the way, and LiquidHero builds cannons like it matters anyway. Losing everything, including this game, and what a shame. My meter is horrible. There's like 8 syllables in one line and 2 in the next, and I'm like, whatever, the words are similar. Hero is dead. I don't know what he was thinking. Photon overcharged. It's not gonna do it because locusts are free units, said the person who thought it wasn't balanced. Hero's gonna kill this base, or as I like to call it, lose everything he owns. Hang in there, Hero. No! GG! So I'm going to come back in here to the 18-minute mark, where I thought things were going so great for Hero. In this position, we have this good old pack of Swarm hosts. In this position, obviously we have a lockdown on this base. If for some reason these corruptors try to step up, we have more than enough to eliminate the corruptors. Our Colossi will be able to stay alive. A-okay, fine and dandy. I really think that this should be quite an active robo facility, perhaps 2, so that way we can be building 1.5 Colossus. Or building Colossus out of 1.5 of the robos, and building a Warp Prism out of the remaining 0.5 of a robo. So in other words, a smattering of Warp Prisms and mainly Colossus. And being really aggressive, killing off this base, doing drops here. And I mean, even if there's like Spine and Spore ringing this, with Warp Prism speed, you can easily cut a Warp Prism in across like this, and then just do a Warp in here, and like go down to this base. Anything to keep Zerg locked down onto 4 bases while we take a 5th, and then soon enough, this critical 6th, which you'll note, creates a block here, so that we have our protected top left. And then we slowly start to overrun. And literally 3 short minutes later, we see that Zerg is still struggling quite a bit. Protoss has begun to get these Void Rays, which is the beginning of the end in my oh-so-totally analytical eyes. Like, these expansions are falling left and right, up and down, top and side. I thought this was très magnifique. But this is kind of a deceptive tab. Hero looks like he has a little bit smaller of an army that he's about to replace with juicier Void Rays, but really, Swarm Hosts are king. And from this point on out, a step to the mere 24-minute mark. Actually, wow, Hero still had kind of a nice position here. Yeah, he was like super locking his opponent down, but gosh, it's like freaking Void Ray army. Step into 27 minutes, Zerg's fine. Zerg's totally fine, he's got this base. Nothing we can do with 30 minutes. There's still nothing we can do. I think aggression. Not enough aggression was the key. Let's open the chat up to every human in the entire universe and begin taking questions. Sleepy Walker says, Day9, your show's been going for nearly 2 years now. Congratulations. Actually, we are almost on the 3.5-year anniversary of the show. I started on October 22nd, 2009, and it is currently April 25th, 2013. So, let's see here. Fuzz0168 says, instead of Void Rays, what about Carrier? I'm gonna go with probably not. I mean, it's so slow and clunky, and it's only really good in direct engagements. Maybe Carriers if Protoss also never went anywhere remotely close to the Spore Crawlers at all. I mean, you basically cannot ever hope to approach this. With Carriers, you're basically making like an even more high-profile target for the Zerg to just like slaughter easily. Apparently that answer, my own answer was so boring. I had yawn. See, I'm not the biggest fan of any air unit, but Carrier would probably be like my top among all those. I mean, maybe if you got to like 8, 9, 10 Carriers, you'd be in good shape, but still, the whole like yoink from the Viper is really scary. The biggest thing is to just be away from the defensive structures, because if the defensive structures are there, then the swarm hosts can burrow there, and if the swarm hosts are down, then the locusts move out, and if the locusts have moved out, your Templar have to run away. They can't be there to feed back the Vipers. So the locusts are what allow the Vipers to step in and get the snag. So if you just follow down the chain, the defensive structures are the biggest thing to stay away from. Yes. Karth501 says, Day9, what is your favorite book in the Dresden Files series? Turncoat is my favorite one in the series. Might even be my favorite book. Is that accurate? Art of Learning's right up there, too. Collision says, Day9, I don't think I appreciated the point you made towards the end of part 2 where you said Zerg would be gas limited and therefore Hero should build units that will be strong against mineral Zerg units. Can you quickly review what you said? Yeah. So obviously sort of a fundamental choice that you want to make is just what composition do I build to kill the composition that he has? Sort of straightforwardly. But often there are multiple answers to that question. So let's take something like a Roach Hydra Force. Like pure Roach Hydra Force. Stalker Colossus Sentry. Works great versus that. What else would work great? Zealot Archon Immortal. With some sentries in there as well. Not as much as the other composition, but yeah. Both of these work magnificently. As showcased by... I think Rain's done a lot of both, Parting's done some of both, not as much of the Zealot Archoning. Hero's done a lot of Zealot Archoning. Okay, great. So we have these two options. Which one do we really want to go for in a situation where we think our opponent is gas limited? I would be more of a fan of a Zealot Archon Immortal composition there. Why? Because if he's gas limited, then our composition is going to work anyways. But what can he possibly replenish it with? Zerglings. So we're going to crush that. We're just going to totally decimate Zerglings because we have a force that's so good against his mineral units. A shorter way to say the point is, if he's gas starved, but he has lots of minerals, you make a composition that's good, that can kill him now and kill whatever he can build with his leftover resources. Yeah. sort of weird, funky thing. Generally, the way that you will see this played out is there will be, if you've ever watched any battle in any tournament, like you're watching MLG and the battle happens, and you see that in the production queue, like what Zerg's making, there's that feeling you sometimes get where when you see in the production, you go, oh shit, he's making all those mutas. Oh dude, this Protoss is screwed. Or you'll think something like, oh dude, look at this Zerg. He's making like 118 lings. Yeah, that'll work against that Zealot Colossus force. That'll help him a lot. Whenever you get that lulls sort of situation, that's one of those situations where it is a player who has a composition that crushes mineral units. So the only thing that Zerg can replenish with are bad units. And you might say something like, well, what about spores and spine crawlers? I'm talking about the replenishment because, you know, if he wants to build a lot of spores and spines, that's fine, but that still doesn't change the fact that if his army dies, he only has minerals to replenish with. ACQ Nona says, Day9, how do you know if an enemy is gas limited or not? Just base count, pure base count. If a player has a base, whoa, it has no use if there's no workers at it. I mean, having 8 hatches at 8 bases doesn't mean you're an 8 bases Zerg. You really only have drones at a couple of those bases. So let's assume you're against a competent player. Let's say he's on 4 bases, trying to get a 5th base as Zerg. How many drones does he need to saturate all the things? A really simple number is about 25 a base. It's actually more like 22 to 24, but screw it. 25 is nice and round. So if he has like 25 drones in one base, and 25 in the second, 25 in third, and 25 at the fourth. Actually, no, I want to stick with 22. I like 22. Let's not make the math easy. So for a Zerg to really be in good shape on 4 bases, he's going to have 88 drones. 22 times 4, 88. If he gets the 5th base up, he can't really make another 22 drones because he will be at 110 drones, which is kind of too many. But what he can do is just take some of the drones to that base and build 2 gas geysers. So as the game goes on, it's less and less possible to make use out of new bases minerals, but you can definitely make use out of the new bases gas, because you only need 6 drones to go on those minerals. So also contrast this with a Zerg who's at 4 bases, and he has 80 drones. 80 drones. And then you as the Protoss go up and you kill off that 4th base. Well, now he has 80 drones, but that's still plenty of drones able to mine minerals. Because it's 72 drones maxes out mineral income on 3 bases. So if you drop him from like 4 bases down to 3, his mineral income doesn't actually change that much. Sort of a long answer because I'm getting a little scatterbrained. But yeah, it's basically base count, and it has to do with the fact that you can easily saturate gas on a new base. But you can't really mess with his minerals very much. If you want to mess with someone's... In short, if you want to mess with someone's minerals, kill workers. If you want to mess with someone's base count, Jesus, if you want to mess with someone's mineral count, kill... Fuck! If you want to mess with a player's mineral income, kill workers. If you want to mess with a player's gas income, kill bases. Oh, so hard. Oh my god. Woo! Fuzzy Chainsaw says, I'm a starting streamer. Any tips to develop a healthy follower base? Do it every day. Every day have a set schedule and never don't show up. Ever. If you can do it every single day for an hour and a half for a month, you'll be in good shape. One more question from the First Legion. Day 9, how does a Protoss counter the swarm, host, corrupt, or spam? It's a counterattack build. You can entirely avoid it. Go around the corners with a scary, scary army, and when the locusts show up, run away, away from the locusts. Let me just note, right now, imagine a Zealot Stalker Colossus Force moving down like this. Some sentries in there. Moves up this way, and all of a sudden locusts appear. No problem. Run away from the locusts, come this way. Hell, even put an observer here. Kill off this base. Locusts start to trickle in. Pull back here. While that was going on, you had a Warp Prism drop up there. Start dealing damage. Maybe some units show up. If not enough units show up, do another Warp in. If some units show up, well, cool. Let's just walk up here. Actually, let's say that you're here. You're here, and you kill off this base, and locusts come in. And you pull back this way. You're pulling up here. And then what do you see? Zerg has a swarm host start to move this way. Well, cool. Take your army, and then... If a Protoss army is here, Zerg has basically lost the game. Purely because of the fact that there's 13 swarm hosts. Because what happens is the locusts appear, and the Protoss army walks here and kills this. And the locusts are continuing to move along this way really slowly. So Protoss kills off this base, and Protoss moves up here, and the swarm hosts start to move up. You can't surround with swarm hosts. You can't lock down movement with swarm hosts. Almost every other Zerg unit can lock down movement. You try to move somewhere, and I got Ling Muta, I'm going to surround your ass, and I'm going to punish you for trying to move in my camp. Roaches easily catch up to any Protoss army, easily track down any Protoss army. Hydra's pretty good at that now with the speed boost. Infestors are really good at that because they cast fungal growth, and then you're bannered. Swarm hosts are the worst unit, probably in the game, actually, at trying to catch up to something. Even a siege tank sieges up, and once it's sieged, it instantly fires. But the swarm host burrows, and then it goes, bleh, and then these slow things walk out at you. So you just keep backing away and hitting them in other bases. And then finally, when you have a huge army, you attack it. He loses half of his, you lose all of yours. But you've had the Zerg locked on so few bases that you instantly replenish again and kill them. Done! Guys, that was a show. Tomorrow we'll be doing Bioshock, and on Saturday, After Hours Gaming League Grand Finals between Amazon and Microsoft. Bye, guys! That was a kick-ass daily because LiquidHero is the hero we need. Hero! Also, I have a really cute sloth who wants you to be happy. And the show is over. Goodbye, Mr. Sloth. See you tomorrow. Scoff, scoff, scoff.